Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today I want to elaborate a little more on what's going on in San Jose. I did a video last week about how they have enacted these new laws that require people to pay a tax on firearms, an undetermined amount of tax right now. It could be half the price of the gun by the time they're done, because they want people buying guns and who own guns to pay the cost of law enforcement taking care of gun crimes. Anytime there's a crime with a gun involved, they want gun owners to pay for that, which is basically a tax on your right, because you have a right to own a gun, so they're taxing you on it. Now they're trying to say, well, you're paying for the crimes, so, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into why that's a bad idea here in just a little bit, and why it's completely unconstitutional. But in that video, I talked about the confiscation side of it, and how I wasn't really going to go into that because it was basically just be fear-mongering because there's no way they can do it. Well, a lot of people had a lot of questions about what are they talking about confiscation? How are they planning on doing it? How could they do it? Well, that's the point. There is no way they could do it. And I'm going to say right now, it's not going to withstand any court challenges, so it's never going to go into effect. But I guess we could actually talk about it right here. See, what they wanted to do is after you paid your tax for your gun, your extra high tax on your gun, which would keep poor people from buying guns, basically, but we'll talk about that more here in a minute. They also want you to keep insurance so that you can also have an insurance that covers the costs if you commit a crime with a gun, or misuse a gun. Insurance doesn't cover your costs if you're guilty of a crime. Even your basic liability insurances for your companies, etc., even the protections of an LLC, etc., won't cover you if you knowingly commit a crime. So I don't know why they would think insurance would cover you if you knowingly committed a crime. I'm not real sure what their logic is there. But here's what they wanted to do. They wanted to have everyone say to everyone, you have to keep insurance. And if your insurance lapses, we're going to come and take your guns. Those things that you have a constitutional right to own because you didn't abide by our little city council rules, we're going to come and violate your constitutional right and seize your guns. I think you can see right off the bat, that's never going to stand in court, period. This is never going to go into effect. It's going to have a stay issued against it. They're going to be sued and they're going to lose. But this is something they're trying. They're throwing everything against the wall right now because they're desperate. But you might have to ask yourself, well, how would they even know if you didn't have insurance? And this is, like I was saying, kind of the point. There is no way they'd know. Like if you have a car, you're required to have insurance in most places to drive that car. But if your insurance lapses, like accidentally didn't pay your bill, whatever, they don't come to your door and say, we're taking your car. The state doesn't. Because your insurance lapsed. They have no fucking idea that your insurance lapsed. The way they punish you for that is if you get a speeding ticket or you're in an accident and you don't have insurance, then you get charged. Then you get fined. But you've committed a crime at that point. So that's one thing. They want to come get your guns just if you don't pay your bill for your insurance. In other words, we don't want poor people having guns because they won't be able to afford to pay that insurance, but the rich people who donate to our campaigns will. And that's the whole underlying thing of this whole law. No poor people with guns. But I wanted to talk about the aspects of what they're trying to do, though, even with the confiscation, because for them to enforce this law, quite often people on the left will pass these laws with no way to enforce it, because if they put the language in the law to actually enforce the law, they'd never get the law passed. But if they can get the law passed first, then they can come back and say, there's no way we can enforce this. We have to take some executive action to make this law that people were okay with enforceable and try to skip, the parts people would object to, skip actually taking that to the people. They do this all the time because the only way they could enforce this confiscation is if the state was the one issuing the insurance, which in the state of California, I bet it's going to be $500,000 a month. It's not cheap there. Nothing's cheap there. They'd be the one having to issue the insurance, and they'd be the ones having to keep the list of everybody who has insurance, which would be all gun owners. And they'd have to know who owned guns to make the list of who has insurance, make sure it adds up to the people who bought guns. So what they'd have to have is a complete list of every person that's bought a gun and what they bought. Because insurance wants to know what you bought anyway. Like if you get car insurance, they want to know what car you have. So the gun insurance is going to want to know what guns do you have. And they're not going to just trust people to report this. They're going to have to go through and seize all the records from dealers, etc., to get this list together for San Jose. So basically what this is, I think everyone can see here, it's registration, which always leads to confiscation. So that's what this is all about. It's about two things. It's about keeping poor people from owning guns, because rich people, they don't care if they pay a 50% tax on a gun. Guns are cheap to them. They also don't care if, I got to pay a little bit extra for my insurance every month, for my umbrella liability policy. They don't care. It's just an expense. They'll write it off. So they don't care. This will keep rich people, this won't bother them, which is what most gun laws do. They discriminate. It used to be gun laws were created to discriminate against blacks, period. Most gun laws that exist were created after the slaves were freed to try to make sure black people didn't get guns, because that's what white people were afraid of. So, and they had reason to be. I mean, they weren't treating these people nice, and now they got rights all of a sudden. So that's where gun laws came from. But now, instead of discriminating on color, it discriminates on class. Most gun laws now just try to keep the people living in the trailers or living paycheck to paycheck, living in an apartment. The people they don't think are important enough, or else they'd be powerful and rich. They're trying to keep those people from owning guns. So what they want to do here in San Jose, which is, I believe, one of the biggest cities in the country, top 10 at least, and I do believe it might be the richest or the second richest city in the country. So they want to make sure that just the wealthy people there have guns, because there's a lot of have a great deal and then a lot of barely scraping bys in San Jose. The working class in San Jose basically lives at poverty level because everything's so expensive. So they want to make sure that those people don't have guns. And they want to have their registration so they can go get those guns. Because to enforce that law, that confiscation law, which I don't even know who's going to do it. Who's going to do it? They're private city police departments, probably. But they're going to have that list. So they're either going to have to provide the insurance and get the list and get all the information from dealers. They already, like I said, made it to where you have to videotape and record every gun sale in a gun shop in San Jose now. So they'll have that information that they can seize. But they'll have to have that list. They'll have to know who you are. They'll have to know what you own, and they'll just come get it if you're not paying your insurance. If you're one of those poor people that, you let your insurance lapse one month because you didn't pay it on time or whatever, they'll just come get your guns and good luck getting them back. That's what it would be like if they were allowed to pass this. That's what it would, if they were allowed to let this stand constitutionally, which it won't. So like I'm saying, don't worry about it. But it just shows you they're getting desperate and they're very egregious in how they're trying to go about getting poor people to not own guns, period. It's very transparent what they're doing. This is just so blatant. And like I say, this guy, this mayor, Sam Liccardo, whatever his fucking name is, he's every bit as sleazy as his name sounds. When you see a picture of him, he's got a very punchable face. I'm sorry, he's one of those people that just pisses you off looking at him. So this is just him, what he's doing with this stuff. He knows it's not going to stand. He knows it's a huge waste of taxpayer money. He is just basically filleting people like Bloomberg and Gabby Gifford's big organization. These organizations, these anti-gun groups that make tons of money. I'm not talking getting tons of money donated to them by billionaires like Bloomberg. I'm talking they bring in tons of profit. This guy, this mayor, Liccardo, or what his name is, he just wants them to be able to say, look, I sucked your all's dick when I was mayor, and now I want to run for governor of California. Please fund me because I eventually want to be president, and I want you guys backing me. All this big anti-gun money, I want it paying for my campaign. See, look, I tried harder than anybody. I tried to get the most egregious anti-guns laws passed as of anyone. You should be giving me most of your money. That's all this is about in reality. But, why not? Why not throw it against the wall? Because if they can get their way and keep poor people from owning guns, get an actual full registration of every gun in their area, and be able to confiscate those guns also through the law, they'd love that. They're not going to get it, but they'd love it. This stuff is flawed from the very beginning. Even the tax on guns. For you to pay for the price of enforcing the laws and the cost of gun crime in the state. Because they say that's what we're wanting to cover. We're going to cover the cost of gun crime in the state because so many crimes have guns involved and it costs so much money to have the police department there. Well, the police department's already there. This is one of those games they always play like, it cost $50 million when Trump went on an airplane somewhere because all the Secret Service people, etc. Well, those people would have got a paycheck that day anyway. It's kind of that kind of thing. The police would have been there and getting paid anyway. So the fact that the crime involved a gun, who gives a fuck? As far as salaries, they don't get more money. If they're answering a call and they're like, what? It's a shooting. Oh, I'm running because that's triple pay. No, that's not how they fund the police. And didn't you people want to defund the police anyway, or at least reduce the funding for the police? So it's all hypocritical. And plus, when you think about that, what is that? That's a tax on your right to own a gun. Imagine if someone tried to use the logic of saying, polling places are expensive. Elections are expensive. It costs so much money to run an election. To have the polling places open, to have those Civil War widows wandering around in there doing shit, that costs money. So the people that are actually voting should be the ones that pay for that. So every time you go vote, $50 charge. You got to cover those expenses, right? The people actually voting should cover the expense. No, that's a poll tax. That's been shot down a long time ago. That's what this tax on guns is. It's basically a poll tax on guns. It's a tax on your Second Amendment right. It will not stand scrutiny. So I just wanted to bring those points to people's attention, and I wanted to, expand on what I said about the confiscation and how it was just not going to happen, so you didn't need to worry about it. But I guess we did need to talk about it a little bit because so many people were interested. And I do think it's something we need to pay attention to. But like I said, don't panic. This is political pandering, but it is a blatant exposing of what they're trying to do. Keep poor people from owning guns, put a tax on your rights, and have the ability to seize everything you own whenever they choose to do it over something as simple as a check getting lost in the mail. So pay attention because, like I said, they're desperate, they're losing, and usually when something is desperate and backed into a corner, that's when they're the most dangerous. All right, everybody, it's time for my favorite part of the show, and I think everyone out there already knows what it is. It's gun talk. For those of you out there that already are aware, I recently bought a little roughneck Derringer from Bond Arms to be my backup gun in my car. I actually have a holster on my seatbelt because when I'm sitting, not real easy to get to my carry gun, so I like having that little Derringer I can yank off there if I'm going down like downtown Portland or something. In case someone mobs my car and I got to be able to draw something quickly. So I have that in my car as backup. But a lot of people have made comment to me saying, it's a decent little gun, but those rubber grips, I can't believe you can tolerate those rubber grips. Did you change them? And if you changed them, what did you change them to? So I thought I'd take a moment today to answer that question. What I ended up putting on there are some custom elk grips from MD Grips. As you can see, they make the gun look so much better. This is not an expensive gun. I mean, it's only in like, what, $240, $250 range. So it's not an expensive gun, but those rubber grips made it look not just inexpensive, but cheap. Putting these on there just makes a world of difference because it's a good, solid gun. Bond doesn't make any like really, flimsy, nasty guns. So just changing those grips out from that rubber made a huge difference. It looks very nice now. So this was well worth it. Now, these aren't the cheapest grips you can buy. They're, I think a little over $100, maybe like $120, I think is what I paid for these. But for elk grips, that's very reasonable because his grips run, $100 for the smaller ones, usually around $200 for the more full-size grips. But before I found MD Grips, I was looking at grips, they were $350 to $500 for a pair. And his $200 pairs are every bit as good as those ones. So been very happy with MD Grips since I found them, like M as in mama and D as in dog, like mama dog. But it's actually his initials. But these are just awesome. Like I said, MD Grips. I just have bought several of them since I first found his little shop. So if you have a gun like this one and you'd like to make it look a little nicer, head on over to MD Grips. Just search for MD Grips, elk grips online. You'll find them. I'll put a link somewhere maybe in the description of this video down below so that you can find them more easily if you can't use Google, if your Google foo is weak. So, like I said, that's what I put on there. MD grips, they're awesome. The price is right on them. So if you're interested in some elk grips for something like your Derringer or anything else, go on over and check them out. All right, everybody, I want to end the show today by, patting myself on the back a little bit here. Because everyone knows I run TYM P, the Yankee Marshall Posse Pistol Project. And I just work so hard. People have been pointing out lately, oh, you work so hard, you do so much. How do you do it? I mean, you must be some kind of Superman, as much effort as you put into this. And I have to agree. I just don't get thanked enough for it because I work. So work my little fingers to the bones. Now, I don't actually compile the lists or read the stories or vote on the winners. That's all done by Vincenzo Lombardo and his band of merry gentlemen over there. They do all that work, all the compiling the lists and taking the entries and reading the stories and voting and choosing the recipients. Yeah, they do all that, but I still have to do a ton. I have to do, well, I'll show you what I have to do. Let's take a look at what I do for TYM P. All right, I drove down here and now you're going to see exactly how much I actually do as far as getting this done. I need 5 of those. All right, now Luke's going to ring them up for me. Beep. And then I leave. As you can see, work my fingers to the bones. I do so much. I mean, it might look like I just walk in and say I need as many guns, and then I pay for them and I leave, which I guess that's what it is. But that's a lot of work. Now, there's still a lot to be done at that point. Now, of course, I leave all that to Luke. I let him gather up all the FFL information, file everything. I let him get all the packaging together. I let him package it. I let him mail it and deal with people who are bitching about mailings. So he does all that stuff. I mean, I'm a self-proclaimed internet celebrity, firearms expert celebrity. I can't be doing that grunt work. So as you can see, I work really hard. So hard. Sometimes it takes upwards of 35 seconds to sometimes a minute. But, I just wanted to thank everyone for recognizing my sacrifice of working so hard for the TYM P while these other people just do, the behind the scenes stuff. Everyone knows I'm the important one who does most of it. So I just wanted to say that. And while I'm saying that, I also want to mention that last week I announced 5 names that I said were June's TYM P recipients. I was wrong. Because I am so involved and pay so much attention to it, I didn't know that we were so far behind because of COVID, etc., not being able to get guns, which, by the way, we switched the gun now. Now it's the G3C or the G3 full size, not the G2s anymore, because of not being able to get the G2s anymore. But I didn't know we were behind for May. So those names were actually for May. So June's names are 4 different names. So if you entered in June and you didn't hear your name listed, don't give up because you still have a chance to win. Or be a recipient. And I'm going to read the actual June recipients tonight. So here we go. These are the actual recipients for June. The TYM P recipients for June 2021. The names are William Trent. There's a P on the end of that. I don't think it's supposed to be there. Trent. William Trent. Wayne Morris is the second one. Ryan Meyer is number 3, and number 4 is Joshua Moore, which that's really unusual. It's all men this time. It's usually half women, sometimes more. But those are actually the June recipients right there. So congratulations to the TYM P recipients. You'll be getting an email from Vincenzo Lombardo. Make sure to respond to that, and make sure to respond all to that so that you're responding to him and me because I'm CC'd on it so that I can get the information and get those guns picked up. Oh, I got to go do that again. Twice in a month. I mean, I don't know how I'll do it, but somehow I'll persevere because, like I said, Superman here, basically. But like I said, those are June's winners. Thanks to everybody out there that makes the program possible. And congratulations to all the winners. And I'll let you know who the next ones are next month. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to sign off by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. It could be a lot worse, trust me, but it could also be better. And if we start to recognize that there are a certain group of people that are not fighting for what's best for us, they're fighting for what's best for industry and their own bottom line, the profiteers, the fearmongers, etc. If we start to recognize those people and start to push them aside as far as influence is concerned, what things will be for people who enjoy freedom and the Second Amendment in the very near future is better.